Hey everybody, how's it going? And welcome to Blueberry Wolf Bridge, no intro RPG. Some simple stuff I want to talk about with Matt Mercer's Darrington Press announced two new RPGs that they're going to be, unleashing about around Gen Con. Daggerheart is obviously the big one that everyone's excited about. They also announced a smaller one called Illuminated Worlds. And I think there's been some conflation between these two systems. I've already seen one fairly big tabletop role playing game, a channel already talk about Daggerheart as being a D6 Golden Coin 100, first in the live chat. Welcome back. Well, back in the high life again. Back in your number one pole position. Good to see you there, baby. Good to see you there, baby. A gold coin for Golden Coin 100 for first in the live chat. Good to see you, baby. Um, Talking about Daggerheart being a D6 pool system, and I got immediately excited, and we'll go into it about the nostalgia loops, and immediately started my brain started moving and gears started moving. Tim Frey, second in the live chat, good to see you. Bronze medal on to you. And started thinking about D6 pool systems. I don't want to go too far ahead, and making predictions about what this system might be based on my knowledge about nostalgia loops and certain D6 pool systems that should be coming back into vogue and would be particularly interesting because of all the controversy that's going on with, open source rule systems and people looking for alternatives to Dungeons and Dragons because so many people are interested in cutting those tethers to the evil organization that is Wizards of the Coast. I think all of this is foolishness and craziness, and basically people getting excited about getting excited. And the rules lawyer is, in my estimation, not really a lawyer. I believe that he went to law school. I think he probably passed the bar somewhere. I don't think he's a lawyer, and whatever. I don't want to get off the track. Anyway, it is Illuminated Worlds that is the D6 pool system game, and that is what leads us to the title of our video: how I know what Illuminated Worlds rule set will be and what it should be. I'm going to tell you based on my my deductions and inference gathering, my research and knowledge of RPGs, what I believe Illuminated Worlds rule system is going to be, and I think I'm going to tell you why, and I'm going to tell you what I think it should be if we wanted to see this thing, if Matt Mercer and the people over at Darrington Press really wanted to weaponize the nostalgia loop, which is totally in effect in the world of RPGs. In the world of tabletop role-playing games, the 20-year, 25, 30-year, and 40-year nostalgia loops rule supreme. If you can work the nostalgia loops, you can, I think, guarantee success because it works so naturally. We're going to see when I do another video talking about Pathfinder 2.5 is happening right on the nostalgia loop for Dungeons and Dragons 3.5. You can't make this stuff up. Anyway, also this video is going to be a little lesson to another RPG cover YouTube guy called J. Scott Garraby. J. Scott Garraby, this is how you be an amateur, you know, tabletop role playing game guy, and now make a total ass out of yourself. It's called Googling names before you make the video. J. Scott Garraby, you make me look good, and I'm a joke. Okay? You suck. If you don't know the names of people, just look them up because then you won't make jokes of yourself. So, anyway, I love you, buddy. I love you. Also, it's like, Monty Cook's Politics. Like, my attitude, my understanding of you was that you were kind of a leftist, but whatever. It doesn't matter. Anyway, if you paid attention to the announcement that Matt Mercer made at the State of the Press 2023 on 4/20/2023, Matt Mercer, obviously, a huge fan of Hitler. I mean, what other explanation is there for the Darrington Press State of the Press occurring on 4/20? You got to read between the lines if you want to decode the Illuminati code. It's Hitler's birthday. I dare you to watch the Darrington Press State of the Press announcement from 4/20/2023 and come up with any evidence at all to refute my conjecture that Matt Mercer is obviously some sort of neo-Nazi. It's in Revelations, people. Anyway, jokes. Smoke them if you got them. If you can figure out how to set a joke on fire. Listen, J. Scott Garraby. Hey, folks. I also like that Total Party Skills guy. He also does his research. Listen, folks, Illuminated Worlds. If you paid attention to the names of the people that designed Illuminated Worlds, their names are Strauss, Asimovic, and Layla Edelman. Now, in his coverage, J. Scott Garraby goes, "Who are these people? I never heard of these people. Why would you hire people that no one has ever heard of when you could hire these people that people have heard of?" Well, I mean, what kind of attitude is that about the arts, J. Scott Garraby? Do we not hire people that aren't famous? I mean, how would new people get their face in the business? Also, you might want to know that Layla Edelman won the Judges Spotlight in 2019 Emmy Award. So she's an Emmy Award winner for the Judges Spotlight winner for her kind of generative dungeon called the Stygian Library that's available on DriveThruRPG. And it looks fascinating. It looks like a generative, kind of like a. She's done some work with also other different kind of like. It seems like she prefers, writing to game mechanics, and she works with. It seems like she works with a lot of like just kind of open rule sets, like OSR style rule sets. And so we don't really need to look to her to figure out what the rules are going to be. But looking at her, I knew that we would probably be looking at someone in her that would be open to working with either a standard OSR open rule set, a generic rule set, or something like Micro D20 or Open D6, because we're talking about a D6 pool system that is like Open D6, which is subject to an open SRD system reference document and is free to use. It's open source. Okay. And we'll talk about why on the nostalgia loop, I would think that it would be very attractive to use the D6 system, that for various reasons. But if we do our further research and look at the other name, Strauss Asimovic, we can see, and I apologize to everyone, Strauss, if I'm killing your name, I apologize, my friend. If we go to him, we see that his biggest works are, he wrote a book called, I think he worked on a book called Scum and Villainy, and he also worked on a book called Band of Blades. If you go to his page on DriveThruRPG that's associated with him, he's associated with a publishing company called Off Guard Games. And both of these books, Scum and Villainy and Band of Blades, are based on the Blades in the Forged in the Dark rule set from the Blades in the Dark RPG. Okay? The Forged in the Dark system from Blades in the Dark is Creative Commons. Okay? Let me do this. I can X-nay out of this guy. If I go back to you guys, and if I want to do this, number one, Pathfinder is Pathfinder is the game system. Tim Frey, it's Pazio is the company. Let's do this. Let me share the screen. We're going to do the people in order. Here we go. Here we can share and we can see Layla Adamson with the Stygian Library. If we go to this link, we go to the Stygian Library, and here we go. It's from Dying Stylishly Games, and I think that's her company. The Stygian Library is a creepily genteel dungeon set in an infinite extra-dimensional library. Each expedition generates its route as it explores, resulting in new locations being discovered with every visit, included within. Systems for generating locations within the library. 40 monsters tailored to the library. A system for searching for specific knowledge. Tables for generating treasure. A big spooky library full of dangerous knowledge, spiritual automata, and ghost-fueled computers. This got a judge's spotlight any, which is nice. You know what I mean? And it's available for $10 from Drive Through RPG. Okay, so to answer J. Scott Garraby, why would Matt Mercer? First of all, you know more than Matt Mercer. Whoever Matt Mercer chooses to work with, let's assume for the record that Matt Mercer made the right decision, right? If Matt Mercer taps a writer, let's assume that there's a reason why Matt Mercer tapped them. Okay, so if you haven't heard about them, number one, you can Google them and be like, oh, I know why Matt Mercer hired this person. He hired Layla because Layla won the 2019 or won a 2019 Judges Spotlight Emmy for designing this, Stygian Library, as well as other work he's probably seen by her. Okay, and as far as the other guy that's working on the case, let's look at his curriculum vitae. He also has this is the things that we see associated with him. The easy way to do this might be like this. I apologize. And if he's the only one, he might not be the only one who worked on these books, but he certainly listed these go to him. Scum and Villainy and Band of Blades are the first ones that come up. I actually have Band of Blades. I have Blades in the Dark that I've read. I have Band of Blades that I've skimmed. I like the system is interesting, but here's what I'm going to tell you. Both these books that he's worked on and he's written extensively for are based on Forged in the Dark. Forged in the Dark uses what? It uses a D6 pool system. Okay? So what am I going to suggest? I'm going to suggest based on the fact that, and if we go here, so what's my evidentiary support for the fact that that the first part of my statement, why do I know what Illuminated Worlds rule set is going to be? I know it's going to be based on the Forged in the Dark system. Why? Because they've already identified that it's going to be a D6 pool system. One of the authors has worked on 2 previous books that have been Forged in the Dark, based on Forged in the Dark, and Forged in the Dark is a open, usable, licensable D6 pool system. What do you think? So it might be a variation on that, but that's what I would think. Now there's another contender for what it might be, or a variation of what it might be a variation of, and what I think would be the stronger choice. And that'll be the second part of my statement, what I think it should be. But let's just take a quick look at the licensing for Blades in the Dark, of why I think that this will show why it's still a possibility, why I think it's a strong possibility that Matt Mercer and Darrington Press have just licensed or just are working on getting a game published with these people. And, it's Darrington Press. I think what they're going to do, I think, there's reasons to think that Matt Mercer and his crew and other people associated with Critical Role would have played Blades in the Dark, would have liked Blades in the Dark. It's in their wheelhouse. It's a narrative-based game that's low on crunch, but high on narrative storytelling. That's the kind of thing that we would see these kind of people being kind of attracted to. The way that they described it as being concept on Illuminated Worlds, being based on short episodic journeys, with tight, more resolved story arcs. That's exact with, not kind of geared towards character progression and leveling that they established as being the concentration for Daggerheart. That's exactly what the kind of thing that Forged in the Dark and Blades in the Dark does. Okay. So that's why I think that they're just taking this opportunity with Illuminated Worlds to bring out a Forged in the Dark system. So if we go over to the Forged in the Dark, and I'm going to present that, we'll show how there is no kind of barrier here with them using the Blades in the Dark, Forged in the Dark system. Here's the licensing. Licensing of Blades in the Dark is now possible with the December 2017 release of our system reference document. Using the moniker Forged in the Dark, the contents of the SRD are available for use under the Creative Commons Attribution License. Use of this license will simply require that you make a clear statement. We'll give you the text that your game is based on our material. Unlike some other Creative Commons options, now this is the very important part. Unlike some other Creative Commons options, this is not viral. You don't have to make your derived content open at all. We think it's awesome if you do, though, because it means you're contributing something back to the community. And that's right there. If it was open source down the road, you use this and it's open, we might see someone like Darrington Press say, well, we don't necessarily want to, do this because we're not necessarily wanting to, we want to have some creative control of the end product. Doing this, they can modify the moving on, and kind of it's like a Terminator seed with Monsanto. We'll sell you the seed, but it's not going to go on for another generation. To make legal use of the Forge in the Dark logo, da 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 da. A guide to using the Blades in the Dark SRD with Creative Commons. This is aimed at designers, writers, and publishers who'd like to build on the Creative Commons release of the Blades in the Dark system reference document. From here on in, we'll just call it the SRD. The most important thing to understand if you're new to Creative Commons licenses is that we've chosen the most liberal one possible. In particular, the license we chose isn't viral, which means you don't have to license those works under a Creative Commons license if you don't want to. Here's the other thing. So if this guy, this one of the authors of this new game, has worked on 2 previous Forged in the Dark systems, I mean, and it's, I don't know. I that this is more further evidence that I think strongly goes to show that we might be looking at a Blades in the Dark system. Blades in the Dark is very popular. It's highly supported. You can see by the 2 variant games that this individual has already produced, Scum and Villainy, and I'm sorry, the other one that we looked at briefly, that there's a community here that likes this system. So there's stuff there that would make sense to see that might be the case. Now, why do I say that if they're using the Blades in the Dark engine, that there might be a better choice? Genocide saying hello to us at work. Oh, and also Catherine joined us, and Catherine, technically you are the bronze medal winner. So bronze medal onto you. Jimmy, no medal onto you. We've given out the medals, but an honorable mention. Genocide, you come in just under the honorable mention, but guess what? We'll give you an honorable mention anyway because you're that amazing. You are so at work right now. There you go. You may be Walter's agent in wherever, but you'll always be my guy at work. Somebody's got to be at work, and Lord knows it ain't me. Listen, so folks, if I've covered and made the argument, so I've made the case for why I think we've established what Illuminated Worlds is going to be. It's been identified as, so far we know that it's going to be a D6 pool system game. One of the authors has worked on 2 previous D6 pool systems game, both based on this Forged in the Dark engine, which is an open licensable game, a very popular system, therefore, and it meets the general descriptions and is good for the things that Matt Mercer and his co-host on that press conference identified what this Illuminated Worlds game was going to be specialized at. So I think I've made the case for why Illuminated Worlds will be a Forged in the Dark game or a variant of Forged in the Dark. However, I'm going to make the case based on the nostalgia loops, the 20, 25, 30-year nostalgia loops, that what they should actually do whether they do it for Illuminated Worlds or if they really wanted to go for the gusto. I believe that if Matt Mercer and co. were to really want to make Daggerheart the Dungeons and Dragons killer. Now remember, folks, there's all these people going, will Dungeons and Dragons be, will this be the Dungeons and Dragons killer? Will this be the Dungeons and Dragons killer? The last time anyone thought there was going to be an actual Dungeons and Dragons killer was Pathfinder 1, okay? And it disrupted Dungeons and Dragons, moving it from the number 1 position of role-playing game in the world to the number 2 position. Everyone can shut the fuck up about Call of Cthulhu. Those Japanese players are buying legions of books and they are not playing. They literally, some of those books are like Let's Plays that are printed out. Like they're people like they read, the Japanese players are reading printed out Let's Plays. Honestly. It's a totally different culture. It's a totally different world, and they skew the numbers on sales, and I don't can trust this. If you think the Chaosium is as big as what, you're out of your mind. Everyone's so bizarre about this whole world. The drop off in play from WotC to number 2 is like insanity, and from number 2 to number 3 is just bizarre. And when you get to like number 3, number 4, like Cobalt, like just get out of town. Like these people are like, it's just ridiculous. So it's like mom and pop organizations when you get to like the 10th level. You know what I mean? Like Palladium were nearly taken out of the game by an embezzler. Okay? Ken St. Andre gave away the rights to Tunnels and Trolls just to make a sale of Flying Buffalo be able to happen, just because he wanted like the sale of Flying Buffalo to be able to happen for other people, because that's how little money's involved. Chris Gonnerman gives his stuff away. You should know and understand how little money's actually involved in, like, the drop off and play. Anyway, where am I going with this? D6 system has its beginnings in Star Wars, the role-playing game. Pay attention to the years. I'm going to make the argument. The argument's going to get a little bit more attenuated because I'm going from what I think I can point to and say, here's the evidence for this, and the other. And look, is it going to be a Forge in the Dark system? We'll see what happens. But here's why, if you want to know what you should do, if you want to have a successful role-playing game in 2024, 2025 moving forward, forget about trying to reinvent the wheel. No one's coming up with a new way to roll a D20. People in this game, in this world, it's all about nostalgia. People want to be remembered of what they remember, and here's what they remember. Folks, the Open D6 project. Let me go share screen for a second. I'm going to go in reverse here. I'm going to talk about the Open D6 project. So here we go. First of all, Open D6. The Open D6 system is a system. It's a D6 pool system that is very, very famous. It's got a deep, deep lineage in history, but it's called Open for a reason. Okay? Now, there are some questions because it gets a little bit fricazy towards the later years. But here's the bottom line for us. Let's follow this. In 1996, okay, West End Games released a core book titled The D6 System, the customizable role-playing game. After West End Games was acquired by Purgatory Publishing, they released in 2003, 2004. So 2003, 2004, that's right on the 20-year nostalgia loop for us. An updated version of the generic D6 system, okay? D6 Adventure, D6 Fantasy, and D6 Space. The terms open game license were attached to these in 2010. Okay, so remember, so these games that this D6 system that reached its maturity and was released kind of as a generic system in 2003, 2006, after originally coming out as a generic system in 1996. So 20 years ago, it came out like in this generic form. Okay, in 2010 it went open, so we know that it's open. But here's where it came from. It's also possible to place continued development of the game system. The D6 system was ahead of its time in many ways, using things such as simplified difficulty system that we see nowadays in Savage Worlds, an abstracted attribute system like we see in Cortex, and fate points like we see in Fate. But gaming has continued to evolve. But now listen. So let's not worry about how it gets dicey, but let's worry about its origin points, because it's where the origin points of the system is where I think it starts to get gangbusters, because we know in 2003 on the 20-year nostalgia loop we have those D6 books, but those D6 books were the culmination of this system, and where the system really started from and where it really evolved and where most people know it from, this D6 system, is from the Star Wars role-playing games, which were so fucking huge. You need to know and understand that like a huge percentage of like the lore of Star Wars doesn't come originally from George Lucas. It actually comes from the people that wrote the Star Wars role-playing game, because they had to come up with stuff. And that when they then went on, people started writing, having to write additional books. And then when people started to go back and write additional movies, they were sent the role-playing game books as additional source materials, because they were easier to understand, comprehend, and get a hold of as like indexes and as like libraries and as like encyclopedias, than dealing with like, 10 years or 15 years worth of comic books and 10 or 15 years worth of like crazy, uh, contextualized and uncanonized novels and stuff. Check this out. Star Wars, the role-playing game. There's been multiple Star Wars role-playing games. We're going back to the original. Star Wars, the role-playing game, set in the Star Wars universe, written and published in West End Games between 1987 and 1999. Okay, so think about those years. 1987 is a crazy year, but anyway, slightly modified and released in 2004 as D6 Space. Okay, so it's got a 20-year re-release back in D6 Space, but it originally came out in 1987. Okay, which used a generic space opera setting. An unrelated Star Wars RPG was published by Wizards of the Coast from 2000 to 2010. Since 2012, the official, and that was just a D20 system. Since 2012, the official Star Wars role-playing game is another unrelated game published by Fantasy Flight Games. So don't worry about it. The most popular Star Wars game was the original one. So this system goes back to 1987. I was doing crazy things with trying to calculate these years and these bizarre years. Development. The game based on W.E. West End Games' earlier Ghostbusters RPG. That game came out in 1986 and was based on a 1984 film. That film next year, 1984, will be 40 years ago. I'm telling you, folks, if you want to hit these nostalgia loops, you would use this D6 role-playing game system that some people could harken back to Star Wars. It's like it's what you should do. Star Wars source books are so authoritative that when Timothy Zahn was hired to write about what became the Thrawn trilogy, he was sent a box of West End Games Star Wars books and directed to base his novels on the background material presented within. There you go. Even after Disney's Star Wars reboot, Star Wars Expanded Universe in 2014, much of this nomenclature still exists in the new canon works. In 1992, that's 31 years ago, 30-year nostalgia loop is real too. West End Games published the second edition of the game, in which the title remained unchanged. In 1996, a revision of the second edition appeared, but its title slightly changed from Star Wars. So we have this game, right? The second edition came out right like 30 years ago. That's a 30-year nostalgia loop. 1998 is 25 years from now. So it's like, it's just a little bit off, but that's still good. By the end of the game's run, around 140 source book and adventure supplements have been published. So I'm telling you, you want to talk about games and how big role-playing games are. If you want to talk about people that forget about GURPS or whatever, forget about fantasy, Palladium fantasy or whatever, after Dungeons and Dragons, a lot of people played Star Wars. They did. In addition, 15 issues of the magazine series Star Wars Adventure Journal In 2018, Fantasy Flight Games published the 30th anniversary edition, comprising the original core rulebook and the Star Wars sourcebook. There you go. They're no dummies. Game system: Star Wars, the role-playing game, uses the D6 system originally developed for the Ghostbusters role-playing game. Reception: in 1996 reader poll conducted by the UK magazine Arcane to determine the 50 most popular role-playing games of all time, Star Wars, the role-playing game, was ranked 9th in the 1996 reader poll of magazines. Okay? So there you go. Ba-ba-ba-ba-ba. Perhaps the perfect system for introducing new players to role-playing and yet offering more than enough to keep even the most jaded gamers happy. At the 1988 Origin Awards, Star Wars, the role-playing game, won in the category of Best Role-Playing Rules of 1987. Okay? I'm telling you. List of core rulebooks. First edition, 1987. Okay? Let me do this. It's going to be 37 years in 2024. Okay, the first edition will be 37 years old. 37, 40 years. That's beautiful. Guys and gals, you want a system to work on? You want an open system? You're looking for an alternative? I see all these schmucks. I love you. I love you. I love you. I love you. My fellow YouTubers, you're all idiots. All these people talking about they're going to come up with this system, this alternative, this alternative. Why? Why give people another system to learn when they don't want to learn it? And all you're going to end up doing is creating another system of roll over, roll under D20, add skills and attributes to move the thing up and down. It's going to be a different version of Dungeons and Dragons. It is, because you're not that creative. You're not that good. It's fine. You know what I mean? It's like, you know what I mean? No one has come up with a better version of tic-tac-toe. It's tic-tac-toe and it sucks. You know what I mean? Only 3-year-olds play it, but you know what I mean? It's tic-tac-toe. But if you want to be a success, use D6. Because it's there. It's in people's minds. It's in people's memories. It's in people's heads. And if you were to come out as, Matt Mercer at Gen Con and say, or with the assembled cast and with these new designers and say, either for Daggerheart or for Illuminated Worlds, hey folks, check this out. And we're here at it's almost the 40th anniversary of the original D6 pool system game. You know it, you loved it, Star Wars. Well, here we are. Daggerheart is using the open D6 system because we grew up on Star Wars and we all know the thrill of the wild die turning everything around. Or we all know the simplicity of being doing these simple ads and adding the number of dice. And we all know that everybody knows that D6 is easy to get around. Even your mom knows whatever it is. And people would be there for it. They would know the nostalgia. They would know the link up to the past. They would know the history. And are people not talking about Star Wars? There's nothing new, so we might as well talk about something that's old. So hopefully in 33 minutes and 44 seconds, I did something in this video. Did something of note and of worth. So we're talking about the D6 system, and it seems like 1990... 97, but here we have cards from 1998, from 25 years ago. The Cosmic Tarot. Ain't it cosmic, baby? Jimmy says 40th anniversary of Return of the Jedi. I was asked to troop for it this weekend. Well, there you go. There you go. Right? There you go. Oh, Tim Frey says, in the comic book, don't forget Jackson the Space Bunny. No one leaves Bunny in the corner. I'm not going to forget Jackson. I'm not going to forget Jackson the Space Bunny. No siree. No siree. No, ma'am. No, ma'am. Here's another thing that's going to be coming back on the nostalgia loop. No, ma'am. The RPG. Oh, and we got a jumper. So we've got it. Here we go. Seven of Wands. Seven of Wands. This is okay. I like the Seven of Wands. Very interesting take on it. Okay. Sometimes the ideas of the crowd are completely balanced, and their orders and ideals are set. But you just know there's some other way. Your way. And come hell or high water, you're going to go your way. Know and understand. You can go your own way, but you're not taking the crowd. You can go your own way, but the others may very well be against you. So if you go, maybe it's best to go silently in the night. Because if you intend your declarations or you intone your truth, that's fine. And your truth will be known. But your truth may get you in some hot water. But so be it. That might not necessarily be a reason not to do. Also, 2013 was the release of Numenera and the origin and the birth of the cipher system by Monty Cook 10 years ago. In this role-playing game space, it is all about the loops. This may be the printing press. This may be somewhere near the heart of the matrix, because this is definitely near the wires and the cross-hatching and the gears, because everything works perfectly according to the schedule here. And I might be making another video either today or tomorrow about that in regards to, yes, folks, you heard me correctly. Pathfinder, Pazio have announced their beginning of they're no longer going to be publishing their current second edition rule books. They are going to be publishing now what they're calling second edition revised, or don't call it 2.5, but it's 2023, and in 2003, not 3 years after 3.0, Dungeons and Dragons, WotC pissed some people off by doing 3.5. So now, exactly 20 years to the day, like father, like son, Pazio is doing 2.5. When did Pathfinder 2 come out? Well, that's a video for another time. I guess I'm just previewing it. But I'm better than J. Scott Garrity, because I can look up names ahead of time. I love you. I love J. Scott Garrity, okay? I love you, I love you, I love you. If nobody told you they loved you today, somebody just did. That somebody is J. Swift R. Cordell Von Monty Dom. It's my story and I'm sticking to it. Okay, I'll talk to you guys soon. And gals. Any comment I ever made about girls not playing tabletop RPGs is like, it's like hyperbole. Okay? Jimmy, are you doing a full stream on the Star Wars RPG, C-dubs? We definitely could talk about it. It's more likely that we are going to be doing something with the cipher system, but that's not to say that Star Wars couldn't be involved. Okay? I am definitely looking for players. So if people know that they are interested in playing RPGs and can definitely figure out some sort of stable schedule, we're trying to move towards things. But you know me and ideas and pre-planning. To pre-plan is to doom it to disaster. So we don't know, but not knowing is good sometimes. I love you. I'll talk to you soon.